What aspects are you guys leveraging AI?
AI has been integral in finding the action points, right? Like find me the thing that I'm not seeing, more or less, right? And if you get good at prompt engineering, you can really make the most out of having your data in that one centralized location.
We look at basically every single question that Justin would ask and across our thousands of customers that are currently using Moby now. And then we actually use AI to analyze all those questions and kind of summarize what's happening, right, at any given time. There's a lot of customers right now that use Moby, and because it's like Google search, we kind of see everything someone would want to ask.
Welcome to a special episode of Chew on This, which is powered by Triple Whale. Today, we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, which is, and always has been, attribution. Today, I am joined by these two gentlemen, Logan and Justin. Both have had experience in the e-commerce side of things. So both can talk a little bit about, attribution and what it looks like today for most brands. Triple Whale has also just launched a new integration where we're actually able to send more data back from your websites back to Meta to understand a little bit more clearly about who your customer is, when they're buying, and all the data points that kind of evaporated during the iOS 14 update. So without further ado, I want to kind of get into it and introduce these guys, joined by Justin and Logan. Justin, would love to hear a little bit about your background, where you've come from, and kind of what you're working on, and then we'll go to you, Logan.
So Justin Parker here at Origin. I got my start in e-commerce working on marketplaces. I was a seller on Amazon and eBay, Walmart, Google Shopping, that sort of thing. And right off from the start, had to use attribution data within those platforms to understand who my customers were, where they were coming from, trying to leverage huge amounts of data to understand return on investment on the platforms. Recently, about a year ago, started with Origin and have since then signed with Triple Whale. We've migrated from BigCommerce to Shopify, and we're just really getting our feet wet with using attribution to make the most out of our ad spend, to the point of, in the last 3 or 4 months, we've actually doubled our ad spend because of the amount of attribution data that we're pulling out of the system. So
I'd love to hear it. Logan, would love to hear your background. I know you're on the product development side at Triple Whale, but a little bit of info for those who may not know you.
Yeah, Justin, great to meet you. And Ash, thanks for having me. I'm Logan Brown. I'm a product manager here at Triple Whale. I've been on the measurement side for about 3 years. Before that, I was maybe one of the first 50 customers of Triple Whale, actually in the very early days. And I was working for an e-commerce brand managing marketing, right? And back then, just to give you guys a little bit of a insight on why this is a passion project of mine and why I care so much, is because, and I'm sure most people have heard this, but at the time, we had Facebook, Google, and Klaviyo running. That's what we had. We were very simple. We were at $2.5 million annually. And the amount of revenue that everybody was attributing was more than what we made every month. And it was a little frustrating. Didn't really know what eggs to put my basket in. And that's when I was looking for attribution. I wanted to understand more than Google Analytics could give me on a last click basis. And when AJ approached me and I found Triple Whale, he was just starting on the attribution project. So he offered me a position. That was 3 years ago. I joined the team, kind of helping build out the pixel that you guys know today in the first attribution project. And now it's become a lot more. So I'm happy to dig as deep as you guys want on what we're building. But it's been a huge piece of my life for the last 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, I got a question for you, right? Let's kick this off. On the marketing side, what is the biggest pain point when kind of running on these platforms? What have you seen be a constant struggle that you're always trying to figure out a solution for?
yeah, I mean, I think Logan touched on it perfectly. It's attribution across different marketplaces and environments, and they all want to take as much credit as they possibly can, right? They all want to prove that the ROI of their platform is as high as possible. And we're seeing ROAS numbers on Facebook upwards of 18 to 20, which anybody in their right mind would be like, just pump more money into that system. It's winning, right? But like Logan said, when you add it all up, when you add up Meta and Google and Klaviyo, it's far more than is attributed to revenue as a whole. So the biggest pain point for us was finding that ROAS number that we could relay to leadership. That what they really want to know is, if I give you, the marketing team, $1, how many dollars are we going to get back? Right? They're not worried about, they don't really want to know so much about attribution. They don't want to know about the different models. They don't want to know about the nuances of how the window is in one platform versus another. They simply want to know, how much am I getting back for my dollar that I'm giving you? And so that was easily the biggest struggle when I first started at Origin, was getting buy-in to the numbers that we were providing on a weekly basis, for sure.
I think even for us, very similar story where as the business grows, right, there's added complexity, whether you're adding, an additional channel on top of Meta, Google, even recently for us, it's been Snapchat. Like, we got some credit from them. We're like, all right, cool, let's run this. And we know Snapchat is probably one of the more greedier channels when it comes to attribution. And so looking at the numbers, it's like, oh, there's like a 3x return here. It's like, oh, keep pumping. And then you change the attribution window to like a 1-day click, 0 view. And then it's like probably like a 0.3 return, right? And then you go look in Triple Whale, and it's like there's actually no conversions whatsoever. And then you look at post-purchase surveys, and nobody's saying they saw an ad for Avi on Snapchat. And so it's like, where is your source of truth? It's very difficult, but having all the tools in front of you allows you to make better decisions, right? At the end of the day, it's not getting the exact answer. It's getting the answers that will allow you to steer the ship in the right direction, right? And so going back into that and getting the right information in front of you, I think maybe touching upon the new integration that Triple Whale has come out with to really help us here, right? When Triple Whale first came out and we started using the platform, it really was to put all of our data in one place. Because for me, I had a sticky note where I was like, all right, how much spend did we do last hour? How much revenue came in? What was the return? And like, doing that manually was such a pain, but it was something that we had to do because you had to go to Ads Manager, you had to go to Shopify, you had to go here, and then pull it all together, trying to build out, sheets and different things. And then Triple Whale kind of integrated everything into one place, and that helped us understand our numbers a lot better. And then on top of that was when they launched the Pixel, really understanding, especially during the times where iOS 14 had just rolled around and we were kind of flying blind, right? So I think now as the tool has progressed, it's now becoming a crucial integration that every e-commerce brand should have, because having clean data is essential to building the foundation for a brand, right? So Logan, would love to touch on the new integration that you guys have kind of rolled into Triple Whale and how that has helped equip brands to building on a digital channel basis.
Yeah, totally. And I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think one thing to like clarify too, we've always talked about the source of truth. I think one piece of this is just getting data, right? Getting granular data and putting it into one place is hugely important, because I think the biggest problem that marketers have is they're living in the Bermuda Triangle and they're not sure which direction to go, right? And so just having data at your fingertips is important, number one. And number two is the pixel has always been tied to attribution, but the pixel itself is just data collection, right? Which is the important segue into what we're doing with Meta. But I also have had so many conversations over the last 12 months with TikTok, Snapchat, Google as well. We're in talks with them. So having this level of measurement with the pixel is very important for marketers and the business owners, because that data can also go in two ways. One, you're visualizing it in Triple Whale, but two, we can send that back to the measurement partners, right? Which is what we're doing here with Meta, and soon TikTok, soon Snapchat. But this right now is like a conversions API feature. So we are just enriching metadata, and that's in two ways, right? The metadata, but also data back to Facebook Meta. And we're just trying to improve their quality match score, right? We want to make sure for all the events like page views, add to carts, purchases, we want to make sure they can do the best they can at matching them with the users that were on Facebook, right? Can they say confidently that the customer who viewed your page today or made that purchase came from Meta? Did they view the ad? Did they click the ad? And like, that's important because their algorithms are the ones that are really pushing the next phase of your ad program, right? They're determining if that ad's going to get a lower CPM than your competitor or somebody else in the platform. So that's why it's super important to pass that data back and just have confidence that we're measuring and capturing every point that we can.
Right. When we actually went through this whole process, right, with like the update to iOS 14, and it kind of, the adoption for that was like almost like overnight went to like 90% adoption. If you look at that on a grand scheme of things, Facebook is losing, assuming a 50% split between Android and Apple, but you've lost almost half of the data that you were relying on to optimize ads to perform, right? And so I think the argument always is like, well, I have a standard pixel. It's on the website. It's there. I know it's triggering and it's sending information back. I think people that are trying to understand like, oh, like there's a API, and I think a lot of marketers aren't maybe as sophisticated to understand, okay, well, all right, through an API, I can send more data back, but then why can't the pixel just send data back, right? So I think maybe dumbing this down a little bit and kind of understanding, well, why does that matter? Why does having like a separate entity that is sending data to Facebook, like why is that important? Why does that matter?
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so let me try to put this in a picture of like a scenario everyone's been in. You go to Costco or Sam's Club or like a major grocery store, and let's pretend you're visiting in a new city like Charlotte or Atlanta, okay? You park there. The first thing you do is normally look up to figure out like where in the parking lot you were. Was I on row 3? And you're not maybe saying I'm in spot 25, but you're like, I'm generally over here by the red car in the back. And then you come out of the store and you're thinking to yourself, okay, where did I park? All right. Now let's pretend you had like breadcrumbs the whole way. You drop these breadcrumbs all the way into the store. Now you're in the store and you're shopping. If you wanted to go retrace your breadcrumbs, this is like the breadcrumbs are like the browser. All of a sudden some little kid could come by and kick your breadcrumb, or the wind could blow and your breadcrumbs are gone, right? This is what happens with browser cookies. They get lost, they get distorted, they also fade away with time, right? Those breadcrumbs are going to get stomped on. And if you spend too much time in the store, now you're not sure if those are your breadcrumbs or a piece of gum that's stuck on the parking lot, right? That's the problem with the browser side cookies. And what we're doing from a server side is just like what you would do when you drop a pin on your Apple iPhone, right? So you basically get to your spot, you say drop a pin, this is exactly where I am, sends that data to the server. And then when you leave the store, you're using Google Maps or Apple Maps to get right back to your car, right? We know exactly where you parked. So that's what we're doing from a pixel standpoint, is we're doing that pin location and we're sending it to our servers, and then our servers send it back to Meta, which is the map, right? To tell you exactly where you came from when you left the store, right? So I hope that's a good example, but that's exactly what we're doing here in this case.
No, I love that. Awesome. So I think now we got the technical side of things out of the way. Let's get into some of the marketing tactics and strategies, right? Justin, I'm very curious. Assuming you guys are marketing on different channels, right? It's not just Meta, it's not just Google. I'm sure you guys are testing TikTok, Snapchat, other platforms entirely. But when brands move away from just relying on Meta, right? To paint the picture, you could literally just look at spend, look at revenue, and say, well, my only traffic is coming from Facebook. I know that all this revenue is probably attributed to Facebook. But no matter what, you're adding complexity here and adding additional channels. It's like, well, where is everything coming from? How do I optimize? Do I raise budgets over here? Do I take it down over there? How do I make my dollar the most efficient dollar it possibly can be? How do you guys track your data across different platforms, and how do you optimize accordingly?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And it's a great talking point, because our current setup, we're using the different platforms and different methods of communicating with our customers for different parts of the funnel. We're actually like really segmenting. We've noticed how people are coming through. We've noticed different cost per clicks on the platforms and ways to leverage our current media and content to bring traffic to the site and then convert them in a different way. What I mean by that is our brand is very visual. We have a great media team that produces some really awesome content. And that works really, really well on like YouTube and visually on Meta. Where we find the best conversion, however, is through SMS and email. So from a bottom of funnel perspective, we're doing really, really well on those two channels. So we want to get people onto the site. We want to capture their email and get them to sign up for SMS so that we can convert them at the bottom of the funnel. How we're measuring that on the aggregate is total impact attribution through Triple Whale. We've tried and have looked through all of the other attribution models, and we use them for what they're intended for, and we can understand first click, last click. But when we want to understand the funnel as a whole and be able to give proper attribution in its proportion to how many touch points that user has been through, we're using total impact with the zero-party data from the post-purchase survey to really give that confidence level. I talked earlier about being able to bring these numbers to our leadership team, to be able to bring that confidence level on a level playing ground, right? Where we're not looking at Klaviyo's attribution model, we're not looking at Meta's, we're not looking at Google's. We're looking at the aggregate with a neutral third party that's interpreting what part of the funnel did they come in, how long has it been since their first touch, how many touches did they have, where was the conversion realized, and then rolling all of that up into a number that we can rely on and report in a way that leadership trusts and understands. Because that's the other thing too, right? Like we can get with Triple Whale, we can get so granular in the data, which is great for us as marketers, like to be able to look down and understand each individual ad and its performance, each piece of creative and its performance. That's really, really great for us. The further up in the organization you go, the less, the more level of abstraction they need, the less they want to know about the granularity, and the more they need a number that they can digest and understand and be able to compare one platform to the other in its intended use.
Yeah, makes sense. I think even leveraging the tool to set a baseline or come up with a target that makes the most sense is, I think, important when you're adding on these different layers of different marketing channels, right? So for example, you may have, especially if you're super like simple and it's like one platform source. So if Meta itself is saying, oh, well, today's performance sucks, but revenue's doing pretty well, it's like, all right, well, don't touch anything, right? But then when you have the additional, channels where you're spending on Facebook, then you're spending on TikTok, and sales aren't great. Well, now which channel is the reason for that, right? And so now if Facebook says, oh, like we're not doing really well today, TikTok is doing really well, like now you have to actually like go in and see what is actually the truth and what's happening, because you can't just say like, oh, well, it's collective now, right? And looking at a blended level is fine, but if your blended results are suffering, you have to find and pinpoint where the problem is, right? One of the biggest problems that I'm facing now is because we're adding that layer of complexity is especially with channels that don't necessarily drive direct conversion. For example, influencers, affiliates, ambassadors, right? You have these people that are promoting a link where it's like, click the link in my bio, use my coupon. So there's like 3 ways to really track this, which is like a UTM or a coupon code or post-purchase surveys. But you have this like awareness factor where it goes beyond just the click. It's, say an influencer generates 1 million views for the brand, okay? If you go back and you look at, maybe even your post-purchase data and says, people take X amount of time to actually buy from your brand. It's not just 1 day, it's not 7 days, it could be a month. How are you guys kind of like going about, well, I know I'm spending money here and it may not necessarily be driving, a direct conversion, but I know later down the line, these people are going to be in my funnel. Black Friday's coming up. Maybe people are waiting for sales. How do you like strike a balance between, all right, well, I need, obviously Facebook is running numbers, it's driving conversions, but then you have channels that are like just meant for top of funnel and brand awareness. Like, how do you strike a balance between understanding a good budget allocation for everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that off the bat. One of the things that we do through Triple Whale is we look at the Pearson correlation coefficient, which helps us to understand the correlation between ad spend on a particular platform and something like direct traffic, right? Because like I said earlier, we're a very, very visual brand. People will see our ads on Facebook, and then they're typing in originusa.com, right? Which is like, okay, great. How do we attribute that? But because we can correlate we can understand the correlation between ad spend on that platform and direct traffic, as the example, we can figure out, okay, during this week we spent X number on Facebook, and our direct traffic increased. So we're looking at it from that perspective, and as long as we've got a well planned out funnel, and understand the purpose of each part of the funnel and each channel in that part, we can use those correlations to inform our spend and go up or down one way or the other. The other thing that we're using is trends, Triple Whale trends, which helps us to understand what the rest of the market's doing, because we're finding some macro level things that are happening in our vertical that we would have otherwise immediately freaked out and been like, what's going on? Everything's broken. Hold up. We've got to ditch all of our spend. But being able to see trends across the industry in more or less real time, I mean, within a day or so, we can kind of temper our initial reactions to anything with, okay, everybody else is feeling this too. How do we pivot?
Oh, great. I love that. Logan, I think similar question for you, because I'm sure you guys are working with different brands with, again, different channel mixes, et cetera, et cetera. How are you seeing brands really account for different things, right? Especially when different channels are meant to have different goals.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you two pretty cool examples going back to your influencer strategy. Now, these are specifically for YouTube. But both brands, one's doing around like 4 to 5 million, the other one's doing more like 50 million, and it's pretty neat. So one has extreme bias. I say marketing bias, meaning they're putting a lot of their dollars into YouTube, and it's some influencer, but it's some like paid ads against influencer content. So think about this channel, but there's like a paid segment in the middle, right? So it's somewhat influencer based. Right. So they're doing the same three-prong approach you're doing. It's discount code, link, and then post-purchase survey. So here's something cool we're doing with pixel data, zero-party data, and then the order data. So we can get all the coupon code uses, of course, on the orders. And then we also have pixel data on all those orders, and we also know who amongst those orders responded to the survey. So what they're doing is they've set up every single person, ad or not, as an influencer in Triple Whale on the platform, and they can tie back the UTM link specifically to them and the discount code to them. And then what we can do is we can take everyone who clicked on YouTube, so it could be from their specific link or just came from YouTube in general, and we can pair that with, of course, like Google traffic. So did they view it and then click on Google or come from Google as an organic traffic source? And what we're doing is we're taking a participation rate amongst people who came from YouTube and took the survey. Crazy enough, the people who come from YouTube for this one brand, I looked at their data the other day, it's like 67% of pixel tracked customers from YouTube take the survey. Compare that with Facebook, it's more like 18%. So people who are coming from YouTube are highly engaged. And then what we're doing is we're taking all the order revenue that was tracked back to the discount codes and the links from YouTube, and we're creating like a weighted attribution model for them. This is something we're going to make available to everybody, but I just wanted to describe like how powerful the three-prong approach can be and what you can derive from that data set. Because it's very interesting when you're thinking about a weighted attribution model. If a majority of customers are coming from Facebook, but only 17% of them answer the survey. You have to account for that low percentage of participation rate and how you think about attributing to that channel. But on the counter piece of this is that YouTube and those influencers and these people like you, Ash, who may mention a product during their organic content like this, that's driving extreme awareness and a way higher participation rate. People are actually answering YouTube and then Ash as their answer in the post-purchase survey. And that's how that brand is accounting for the magnitude of those influencers in their overall strategy.
No,
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I love that. I honestly, it's like you almost have to be scrappy with some of these things, right? Like post-purchase surveys isn't going to give you 100% of the answers, right? You have to assume people are just clicking just to get out, right? People are just not going to answer. They'll close a window, whatever it is. But I think whatever information you can get, even if it's 20% of it, you can extrapolate and kind of get a better answer and understand, well, is something working or not working? Right. And like I go back to the example of Snapchat, where if I had one person just say they saw Avi for the first time because of Snapchat, I'd 100% look more into spending more there. But if not a single answer is showing anywhere about Snapchat, is this like even doing anything? Right. And then even similar with Pinterest. I'm sure I don't know if I'll get hate for this or it's a hot take, but like, again, like we ran, I think a few years ago, we spent like 50K in a month, and on Pinterest said $200,000 in revenue was attributed. Okay. You go in and you look at the post-purchase surveys, not a single person said Pinterest. And so you're trying to understand where any of this is going or how these platforms are attributing. And at the end of the day, is to put more money into their pockets. But I think marketers need to be a little bit more savvier now and say like, hey, we're using, the right attribution windows, we're using the right attribution tools, but sometimes it's like that survey really does tell all. And so I would say, you can have all the tools, have everything set up, but you don't need to just rely on one thing. Have different areas and different things to measure and monitor to make the right decision for the business. And it could come from, in platform, in triple whale attribution, and then your regular post-purchase surveys, or sometimes even coupon codes, right? Like we're talking with influencers. So really great points, both of you. I do want to move on to something that has been on everybody's minds, which is AI, right? I think on a day-to-day basis, I talk to ChatGPT more than my wife. And so it's like, how are you guys thinking about leveraging, AI in marketing now? There's so many different ways that we're using it, but Justin, I'm very curious, in what aspects are you guys leveraging AI?
Yeah, for sure. Logan touched on a crucial point with this, is getting all your data into the platform to be able to use AI on it. And so with Triple Whale and Moby, we have a bunch of integrations. We've got Okendo connected, we have Gorgeous connected. I'm really pushing to get them to connect Loop. So shameless plug there. But once we've got all of those connections and we've got all our user data in the same spot, AI has been integral in finding the action points, right? Like find me the thing that I'm not seeing, more or less, right? And if you get good at prompt engineering, you can really make the most out of having your data in that one centralized location. So we're definitely seeing a lot of success. I mean, we're a few months into, actually, I think, gosh, when did we sign with Triple Whale? March. So maybe 6 months in, and we've been testing Moby out from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, leveraging the insights between return rates versus survey respondents versus reviews and that sort of thing, and understanding what's our most engaged segment, right? And to that point, I think that's probably really where the market's going, is segmentation and personalization using AI. Once the machine learning can understand who our users are and attribute their actions across their interactions with the brand, they can serve up content that's relevant to them. And that's, I mean, realistically, that's the holy grail for a marketer, is to give that consumer the content they want through the channel that they most engage with at the lowest cost per click, right?
Love that. I would love for like an example of where you leverage Moby to get some insights, understood what those insights were, and then something that you kind of implemented because of that. Any idea or something that comes to mind?
Yeah, for sure. I actually was just using it yesterday, and this is maybe a little bit more of a bland example, but it's a very good tie-in for using Moby in my everyday. We had some broader marketing meetings and trying to understand what we bring to present, and using Moby, I was running through our ad spend to revenue ratio, and trying to get the correlation between ad spend to revenue and activities on the individual platforms. And so I was able to, through prompts, create some charts that I could then pin to my weekly dashboard that I bring to our, we call it the commercial call, to our commercial call. And once I got the prompt right and I got the graph the way that I wanted to, it was like, done. I don't have to go through this ever again. The BI team, I don't have to wait on them. Through just simply chatting with Moby, I was able to get a graph that is responsive to date ranges, that just by changing one channel in the prompt, it made me another graph for the other channel that I was looking for. So it's been a huge win for us.
Yeah. Logan, would love for you to kind of deep dive like how other brands are maybe leveraging Moby, and why it's essential to actually use this AI to kind of further marketing efforts.
Yeah, totally. I didn't know that you were going to bring this up, but I'm excited you are because it's been, AJ and I are working like side by side on this new project. It's going to sound a little heady, but I'm excited to at least bubble it up and get your guys' feedback on it. We analyze every chat that happens in the app, right? So we look at basically every single question that Justin would ask and across our thousands of customers that are currently using Moby now. And then we actually use AI to analyze all those questions and kind of summarize what's happening, right, at any given time. There's a lot of customers right now that use Moby, and because it's like Google search, we kind of see everything someone would want to ask. There's a lot of folks that are just currently trying to figure out like root cause analysis. My net profit's down, my ROAS is whatever, why? It's like a ton of why questions. So the big project that AJ and I are working on right now is called workflows. And exactly what Justin just went through, we want to automate that process. And we're trying to automate that root cause analysis on a couple of key metrics out of the gate. That's kind of the heady part, but essentially I'm trying to extract what's in my brain and other people's from around the web too, to build a framework that AI can use to find that root cause, right? And what you can do is you can take, so what Justin probably did is he said, Moby, give me my ROAS for the last 7 days compared to the 7 days prior. Now give me my ad spend for the last 7 days by channel compared to the days prior. Now run a correlation analysis between ad spend and my revenue, right? That's just 3 steps. But imagine he was doing something more complex that took 10 steps, 20 steps. The things that we do as humans every single day to try to figure out what's going on in our ad account or on Klaviyo or in general with our business, we can essentially run prompts for every single question in our head, get data back, and then Moby and OpenAI, I mean, I'm not going to lie here. We're using OpenAI, but we've trained the model to understand this data set. You can use the power of that to analyze all that data in aggregate to come back with a response to you about why something's happening. And then you can also train it, like Justin was saying, on the way you would think, the framework. So I was doing one last night about Facebook campaigns. If my Facebook ROAS or CPA, whatever your target is, whatever your high-level KPI, if it's up or down on any given day, we can not only write a rule that says if ROAS is down 10%, run this workflow, but then I wrote like a 2-page dissertation on how I would think about analyzing a campaign and all the different areas you should like focus on to determine if you should scale up, scale down, turn ads off, adjust a CBO campaign to an ABO, whatever it might be. And then it will come back to you with a recommendation based on all that insight, the data and the way that your mind is working, that framework, to come back with like a recommendation on what to do next. So I know it's very heady. It's probably too much for people to think about right now, but we're going to try to launch a beta soon where it's a one-click thing for you in Triple Whale. So you'll click this this icon, and it will come back. It'll run everything in the background and create like a 2 to 3 sentence summarization and response. So I'm excited to get like feedback from folks like Justin, but I wanted to at least tell you guys what we're up to because it's kind of fun.
No, that sounds incredible. I mean, just go through your own workflow, right? Our workflow, and maybe it's similar for others, is okay. You have a real life example where for us the weekends are very strong, right? Then you head into Monday, Tuesday, and things kind of drop. And then Wednesday onwards picks back up. But if you have a day or you have a week where Wednesday doesn't start to pick back up, it's like, well, where's the issue? Because you notice, obviously, as I can maybe speak for a lot of media buyers, how your ad account runs. You know the nuances of when it spends well, the efficiency is great. And if there's, something where like a Wednesday doesn't pick back up, you're like, well, what's wrong, right? The first thing you do is you go in and you look at all the channels. Where is the return lower than normal? Then you go in and say, okay, well, what ad set is it? What ad is it? You're seeing within Triple Whale, okay, cool. I pinpointed the issue. Now let me go ahead into Facebook and see what I can do, right? So I think this is great because that whole analysis can be done with a click of a button where it's like, hey, today's not great. I know something's wrong. Figure it out for me. Give me actionable advice on what you think I should do. I think is one, saves us a lot of time. Two, you guys are able to leverage data across every single data set that you guys have, and it's way more than I have just looking at it from a just a holistic view. So I'm very excited for that. Thank you for sharing that. Justin, what are your thoughts on what Logan kind of just outlined?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had advanced access, but I've seen some version of workflows in my Triple Whale account, and I've used them, like even just the sense of, wow, that's a great question, right? Like I didn't think to ask that. So to have all the examples there and seeing it go through, I mean, it's a series of prompts, right, that get you to the end answer that you're looking for. I think it's awesome. I mean, and that's, that really is, I said this to Miles the other day, my rep at Triple Whale. I was like, one of the biggest advantages of being connected with Triple Whale and with other partners like this is the collective consciousness of what are the questions I should be asking, right? What are the things that I should be paying attention to? What is everybody else seeing? So no, I love it. And I think even having, Ash, to your point about, Wednesday's down, what's going on? We as marketers understand our company, we understand our products, but we don't necessarily have the time to pay attention to every little nuance of what's going on, right? And so that random Wednesday might be down because all of a sudden there was an issue in your inventory software and you didn't realize that you're out of stock online, you're out of stock on one product. Well, having all your data in that one spot, conceivably, you can analyze and say, okay, your number one product is no longer selling. That's why your Wednesday is down. It may not be something that you've got to do with ads, or, you got a flurry of negative reviews on a particular hot selling item, having your review software connected, the possibilities there to be able to deep dive into all that data in using AI without having to do it yourself and free up that bandwidth to do other things is enormous.
It's such a great point. It's like there's so many reasons why something might happen, right? And I think a lot of us think like, oh, it's Meta's having a bad day, right? And it's easy to blame something else for the reason, but to your point, it's like you could, for some reason, there may be an issue on the website. Maybe your landing page broke somewhere. Maybe somebody installed an app that interfered with something else, right? Or a product goes out of stock. I think having all of these integrations in one place for a system like Moby to have access to is way better than you playing detective and trying to pinpoint where things go wrong. And then if you're not thinking of certain areas to even check, and then you're chalking it up to, well, Meta is going to be Meta, then you're not moving forward. So great points there, Justin.
I'll give you one better too, yeah. Ash. It's like I'm not sure how heady the audience will be on AI and what's going on, but Claude just released a new beta feature that is basically going to allow users to use, like the computer will do the actions you say, which we don't really do right now. Like it will be able to visit your site soon. So imagine this scenario where you've scaled your team, right? And you have a retention marketer. That retention marketer probably just launched some new A/B test for like a pop-up, right? For an opt-in. Let's say they forgot to exclude the checkout page. And now that pop-up on mobile just happened to every customer that came through the site, and they can't click the X. So they just abandoned checkout. And you're like, why in the world are my conversion rates down? Well, not only can you use Triple Whale at first to figure out conversion rates down and then pinpoint maybe where that problem is, it's at the checkout page. You're going to be able to soon use like tools like Claude, and we'll integrate with them, where you can say, go to my website, this product, add this thing to checkout, and go through the funnel, right? And it's going to tell you that there's a pop-up in the way, right? You're going to get that data back as well on top of just like the analysis that we can provide. So I think that just launched like yesterday or 2 days ago. It's moving fast. Like all the things we as humans had to do physically, I think that will go away. We won't really have to look at spreadsheets. We won't have to go test our websites. That part's going to be done. It's going to be more creative. How are we going to then take that data and that insight that we just saved 3 hours analyzing and go do something more useful?
I love that. This has been honestly like I almost forgot how many complexities there are when it comes to like analyzing like the effectiveness of different channels, and really understanding where to look at and how to like, you know, assess the next steps if something goes wrong, right? Or the next steps onto how to scale. Because everybody asks like, oh, how do I scale? How do I scale, right? Justin, before we wrap up, I know you mentioned just from like kind of implementing Triple Whale, you guys have been able to kind of double ad spend, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing kind of before Triple Whale? And then what are you doing now that's allowed you to spend more?
Yeah, I think so before not having a centralized and neutral third party for attribution, we were scrambling, really, right? Like we were between ad platforms, we're looking in Google Analytics, like just trying to understand where are people coming from, what are they converting on, why is our ROAS so like unbelievably high when we're not realizing that, you know, on the revenue. And so there was a lot of collective consciousness being used, trying to figure it out, trying to understand it. And so we signed with a new ad agency shortly before we signed with Triple Whale, and they were like, you know, if you really want to get the most out of this partnership, you need Triple Whale. So we're like, okay, well, you know, we spend a lot of money on ads. It makes sense to get the most out of our ads. You know, this is a short amount of money in comparison to what we're spending on a monthly basis. And so, you know, it took a little bit of time to get the total impact survey kind of zeroed in where we wanted it, because again, our brand is somewhat of a creator brand or influencer brand. We've got a couple of high profile people associated with it. So, you know, we set up the survey originally to have some of our influencers in there, and quickly realized that they were taking all of the responses. So we had to kind of dial that post-purchase survey in to where it gave us the meaningful information that we wanted without the noise. And so once we did that, and once we went through, I mean, I literally had with our executive team, I had a session, which was, let's look at every single attribution model. Let's read the description from Triple Whale so that we all understand it. And here's our recommendation as the marketing team, as the ads agency. This is the model we're going to use for top level reporting. We all sat down, we all agreed on that. And now it's a matter of fine tuning within that metric. So since we've been with Triple Whale in the last 6 months or so, we have, like I said, in the last 3 months, we've doubled our ads budget. The reason why we were able to double our ads budget is because everybody trusts the number. We know what we're getting back. And realistically, from my perspective in being in the numbers and seeing how much, you know, like I used the example earlier about direct traffic from people that saw us on Facebook. Even if they don't answer the post-purchase survey, we know the correlation is there. We also understand because of that, our numbers are actually conservative for once, right? The ROAS numbers that we're reporting, we're never going to fall short of that. We're not reporting something that's artificially inflated. So the finance team can trust us when we say, if you give us X, we're going to give you back the ROAS number times X in revenue. So it really is that trust. It's that mutual buy-in in the rest of the organization that the money that's put into advertising is going to, without fail, bring back that number that we're projecting because we've got the system down.
Have you been able to kind of set a baseline with that as your like form of confidence? Meaning, I've seen some customers, and I'm bringing this up because I think the audience will get some use out of it, is like, regardless using triple attribution or total impact, when you see the new customer ROAS is 1.8, are you tying that back to blended NCPA and NC ROAS for the store? And you know that like when we hit that metric, if we can hit a 1.8 on total impact for new customer acquisition, that's winning. So let's go find the ads that are hitting that baseline and try to scale more, or are you guys approaching it a little differently?
Yeah, so we're approaching it a little differently, and it's solely because of the way the funnel is set up, and knowing that like we're using Google demand gen for some pretty heavy for top of funnel, and then we're using Meta for a lot of retargeting, and then email and SMS for bottom of funnel. So yeah, we're definitely looking at the NCPA numbers through total impact, but by and large, we're optimizing towards overall ROAS and then sessions through Google itself in the demand gen.
Interesting. Cool.
Love it. Well, thank you guys. This has been incredible to kind of go through and kind of chop up attribution. I haven't really talked about attribution in a while because it's always been like one of those topics that are like, not again, right? But I think people do, especially with these like new channels that are like people are getting on, whether it's like TikTok Shop, Snapchat's making a comeback, influencers. I think brushing up on this topic is very important, and the importance of having a solution where every single data point can kind of consolidate in one area so that you can assess as a marketer, I think is very important. Before we sign off, I would love one takeaway from the both of you. For viewers and listeners, what is one thing that you want to take back from, maybe it doesn't even have to be from this conversation, but one thing to kind of take back and implement in their business today, something to chew on. Logan, I'll start with you and then we'll go to Justin.
Yeah, I think if you haven't signed up for Triple Whale, there's an offer out there somewhere. You can get a pretty good deal right now to jump in. With 3.0, this new platform we've built, we have tons of new like reporting templates, dashboards we've never had before. We have 2 specific ones in there for Black Friday, given that's coming up. My thing is like jump in there, log into those dashboards and look at last year and build your comps for this year. Given that it's like October 23rd right now, I don't know when this will launch, but like if you have the time, go in there, make sure you understand last year's data confidently and scale it up this year.
Plan ahead. Love that. Justin?
Yeah, I'd say try something new, right? Give a new channel a go, but be able to track it, right? Yeah, as an entrepreneur, I was always willing to take a risk on something new as long as I could understand the return on investment. And the only way that we're going to win as marketers is being ahead of the curve. And the only way that you do that is by trying what's out there, trying what's new, because what's worked today probably isn't going to work tomorrow.
Love that. Chew on that. If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.